Biden heading to Maui to survey the damage from those terrible recent wildfires. He is expected to meet with the first responders and survivors of the fire, which broke out earlier this month. The president is set to speak there about the more than 100 people who died. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane joins us now from the White House. Scott, thanks for being here. An important visit for the president. Hawaii and much of the country continue to reel, and as they watch the images and learn more about what has happened, what do you hear the president will say to the families and those affected?
We asked the FEMA administrator what the president hoped to accomplish by joining her today in Maui, and she told me he needs to better understand the impact of this tragedy by seeing it in person. That seeing this singular, horrific thing in person really is quite something, a catastrophe of unparalleled scope and size in American history. We also know this, that the needle has to be thread by any politician, any president responding to a massive catastrophe. You don't want to dislocate or disrupt the responses, but you also don't want to stay away and appear sluggish or disinterested. So the president's there today, seemingly at a spot where he won't be disrupting any of the response at the federal or state level. But Bob, ultimately, the president's going to underscore the breadth of the response here. It is federal money that is helping to house some of those dislocated. They need to bring in federal agencies to stop some of the air traffic, to help responders, to help provide food, nutritional assistance to the families there who need food and who need services. This is a breadth of scope of government we haven't seen to a natural disaster in quite some time.
Scott, speaking of the scope of everything here, you're up on Capitol Hill as a congressional correspondent, keeping close tabs on what these lawmakers are up to, even though they're on summer recess. What's going on Capitol Hill to talk about funding for disaster relief, if anything?
This is an emerging issue, Bob. FEMA is running short on money. They get money in the fiscal year system, which means money runs out September 30th of each year, and they're running low after all these disasters and all of their responses. They're going to need Congress to pass new emergency funding to refill the Disaster Relief Fund, the so-called DRF. President Biden has asked for $12 billion to do just that, so that FEMA doesn't have to scale back its efforts responding to some of last month's disasters, like the flood in Vermont and the flood in the Hudson Valley of New York. But Congress, at this moment in time, Bob, as you well know, is not a reliable source of funding for anything. There is a gridlock that paralyzes this particular Congress, which makes even the easy asks like disaster relief funding uncertain. That's going to be the story that defines the rest of this month here in Washington.
Scott MacFarlane, thank you. We appreciate your reporting.